Hi students, so today we are going to see a new chapter, developing hints. And with developing hints we'll see how we can be writing a short story with that. And from exam point of view, this question will carry for 8 marks. Let's see how we proceed. So the basic points to note for developing the hints is like few tips I'll give you now. Okay, let's see what all process to follow to develop a beautiful story. First, read the given outline very carefully, and as you're reading the outline carefully, automatically you should start imagining and start being more creative in your imagination and what the story is going to be all about. Okay, so structure your mind accordingly the moment you start reading it, and understand the overall concept very well, and see the tips that are given, that the developing hints that will be given is just few. With each hint you should be able to at least create 3 or 4 sentences. Only then you can form a proper story. Okay, that's one of the major clue. And many a times or the maximum of the time, the story has to be always in past tense, because the hints that will be given will be in present and the story will be always in the past tense, the instant that has already happened. So see that throughout the story the tense you are maintaining is always in the past tense. And the points that you develop, as you keep developing hint by hint, point by point, see that there is a proper connection from the previous hint to the current hint that you are writing, and the future point that you will be developing into a story. There has to be a overall continuity in the flow of thought, your ideas, your creativity, how you imagine, and see that how you keep weaving the story into a beautiful one. And since I said the hints will be given, and our main motive should be that it is not more than 2 to 3 paragraphs. And when I say 2 to 3 paragraphs, just keep in mind we are going to have it with introduction, and we'll be having the main body of the overall story, and then we'll have the conclusion of the story. So this way you can beautifully design your story writing in just 3 paragraphs. And as I said, keep in mind it's going to be only of 8 marks, so one full page of your exam has to be, your A4 sheet has to be covered. Okay, and conclusion is equally important, and when there's going to be a proper intro for the story, obviously the conclusion also has to be done in a very systematic proper manner. And see, the middle part also has a lot of juicy matters, lot of creativity, lot of imagination, and lot many vocabularies in that. And you should force the reader to go actually visualize the entire story in front of them. That should be your way of writing the letter. That should be the way that you put your words in that automatically the reader will start visualizing the entire episode in front of their mind. Okay, and finally give a moral to the story. Once the story is over, what is the takeaway, like what is the moral of the story that you want to project? That's very important. And many a times the story requires a heading, it requires a title. See that these 2 important points are not missed out. Keep in mind totally it's going to be of 8 marks, and you need to have a moral, you need to be having a heading, and it should be divided into 3 paragraphs. You need to have an introduction, you need to have a conclusion, and you'll be having the body of the the story. And to make it more interesting and beautiful, try to use lot many vocabularies, try to add lot of adjectives to your story, which will force the reader to go into imaginative mode. So, and see, main important thing is see that your sentences have to be grammatically correct, and that's how it is your story developing should happen. Let's see an example now. Here the example is talking about a bee that falls into a tank. Then a dove flies past, drops a large leaf into the water. The bee climbs on the leaf, flies away. A boy takes aim at the dove. The bee stings, and the dove is saved. Okay, so read this. Many of you would have heard this story already in your childhood. It's a very common story which everybody knows. There is a bee that's fallen into the water, and the dove rescues it, and later on the dove is rescued by the bee. This is the overall gist of the story. Okay, And by reading this itself, you should have made up your mind for a beautiful title for this story, and also the moral of the story. Okay, now let's see how we keep going. How do we start writing it? So first thing is, give a title. Say the title that I have selected here is mutual help, and the moral that I have given here is a friend in need is a friend indeed. Okay, so just by seeing the gist of it, I have come to these two conclusions. Okay, here I told you, as the story says, the bee is in trouble and the dove saves the bee. Later on, when the dove is in trouble, the same bee comes and saves the dove's life. So these two topics are very apt. So you give a proper heading and then a proper moral as well. Now let's see how we build the paragraphs, right? So in the first paragraph, we see that you generally start the story with, once a bee went to a tank to quench his thirst, and unexpectedly it fell into the tank. So automatically, like, you create a climax there. So it is going to have a normal drink the tank, and unexpectedly, like, use such words, to create that shocking environment in the story. So people who are reading will suddenly imagine, okay, unexpectedly this bee has fallen into the tank now, and now you can imagine it's almost drowned. You can create that scenario where the bee is struggling in the water, and it is like its wings are all wet and it's unable to fly and is almost drowning. And there comes a dove which was passing that way, and it saw the stinking bee struggling in water, trying to swim, coming to the shore. So the lovey-dovey dove, what does it do? It immediately goes. It has a very strong desire that it has to help the drowning bee, because they don't know each other. Okay, it's just that the dove has a pity on that little bee and wants to save it. So quickly it goes, and as a bird, what can it do? It hurriedly flew to the nearby tree. It plucked a leaf and it drops the leaf on the water. And the bee, what does it does? Like, that is a rescue boat for the bee. That little floating leaf, immediately it starts moving towards the dry leaf and try to climb on that. You can say dry leaf or green leaf, make it more imaginative. And finally, with lot of tiredness, the bee climbs the leaf, and then it is settled on the leaf. It actually takes rest, and now it is drying out its wings, and once the wings are all dry, it starts to fly away. Okay, so the bee is very, very grateful for its life to be saved by the dove, and maybe they can say that it folded with both hands and said thank you to the dove. It's up to you how you beautifully imagine and make a story out of it. Okay, now comes the later part. So the second part you can put in a second paragraph. A few days later, what happened? Okay, a few days later, the bee was returning to its home at the end of the day. Okay, after its hard day work, it is returning home on its way, and it saw a boy taking aim at the dove sitting upon the branch of a tree. So here you need to create that a scenario where it is panicky. It sees a dove in trouble, and then the dove has to be saved. And what will this little bee do now? It doesn't know how to save the dove. So the only weapon that the bee has is its sting, right? So how quickly it can save the dove? It quickly imagines what can it do, and then it sees the boy is aiming at the dove, and at any moment the dove may get killed. So it straight away flies at high speed towards the boy, and straight away aims at the boy's wrist, at his hand, and stings it so sharply that the boy shouts. Okay, he shouts with pain, and the moment the dove hears the sound or the panicky around, it flies away. Okay, and see, here is how the little dove is saved by the little sting bee. Okay, and here you can add on too much of drama here. You can visualize, and you can add on you can create that climax here, what happened exactly, and how the boy was stung in his wrist, and how that catapult was aimed somewhere else and the dove was rescued. Okay, so create that lot of juicy materials and interesting, with lot of imagination and lot of creativity, with all new vocabulary. Okay, that is how you can grab your marks when you write. And thus the bee showed its gratitude for the dove that saved his life. And ultimately we have the moral and the topic very aptly set for this story. So this is how we do our developing hints. So hope guys you have understood it, and I'm expecting more creative and more beautiful imaginative stories from you all. Okay, so followed by this video or this PPT, you'll be submitting your assignments on GradRace. Thank you guys, thank you.